tucked away behind this old warehouse in Charlestown, Massachusetts, is a little-known historical Revolutionary War site that was of great significance on the night of April 18th, 1775, the night before the battles of Lexington and Concord took place. On that fateful night, Boston silversmith Paul Revere set out on what would ultimately become his famous midnight ride. He is remembered by history as tearing through the Massachusetts countryside on his trusty steed, spreading the alarm that the British were on the move, probably on an expedition out to Lexington and Concord. But how did the midnight adventure of Paul Revere begin before he jumped on that horse? And what historical site is tucked away behind this old warehouse in the Charlestown Navy Yard? Oh, I hope you're wearing your adventure pants, everybody, because today we are off on another historical action adventure. Hi everybody, it's me, Katie. Welcome back to my channel where it is all Revolutionary War all the time. If you've been here before, then welcome back. I am so happy to have you with me again. And if this is your first time visiting, my name is Katie and I am a Revolutionary War researcher, writer, and speaker based in the Boston area. And this channel is intended to be a fun and friendly place where I share my research. But if you are considering subscribing to this channel, be forewarned. On this channel, we venture out on historical action adventures. All right, now evidently I'm gonna have to climb over this. Oh no. We visit all types of places where events of the American Revolution happened. So if this sounds like fun to you, I would love to have you aboard on this journey, and I hope you'll consider subscribing to this channel so that you can come along. Paul Revere's historical action adventure began on the night of April 18th, 1775, when Dr. Joseph Warren dispatched him from Boston with a warning to John Hancock and Samuel Adams, who were staying at this house in Lexington, that the British were making a move. Accepting his mission, Paul Revere rushed back to his house in the North End and made a brief pit stop to grab his coat and boots. Dr. Warren had also dispatched another alarm rider named William Dawes, and he left Boston overland across Boston Neck. But Revere needed to leave Boston by a different route from another part of town. He needed to surreptitiously get out of Boston from the North End and cross the Charles River, kind of in that estuary area where the Charles River empties out into Boston Harbor, and reach the Charlestown Peninsula. And from there, the whole Massachusetts countryside would open up to him, and he would be able to reach Lexington by road. Before leaving town, Revere instructed some of his compatriots to hang lanterns here in the steeple of the Old North Church on Salem Street in Boston. And these lanterns would serve as notice to people outside of Boston in the countryside, namely in Charlestown, that the British were preparing to move into the country. Now, leaving Boston and crossing the Charles would prove to be rather daunting. Revere and the men rowing him had to make it past HMS Somerset, a British warship that lay moored in the Charles River directly in between Boston and Charlestown. Nowadays, we have the North Washington Street Bridge to connect Boston and Charlestown. But back in 1775, instead of a bridge spanning the Charles River in between Boston and Charlestown, they had ferries. Boats served as little ferries transporting passengers back and forth. The Somerset was blocking the ferryway, not only to serve as protection for the town of Boston, which was occupied by the British Army, but to prevent anyone from slipping past it and reaching here, Charlestown, carrying information about British movements. You know, like Paul Revere was about to do. Now you'll see that we're behind that big old brick warehouse where we started. And we're out here on Boston Harbor. And I mentioned earlier how there is a historical site tucked away behind that warehouse. And we were just talking about HMS Somerset, but that is not it. That is the USS Constitution, famously nicknamed Old Ironsides, because during the War of 1812, sailors noticed British cannonballs bouncing off the sides of her hull. Old Ironsides was built in Boston and launched in 1797. It is the oldest commissioned warship still afloat in the world. And in 1803, some copper from a copper mill in Canton, Massachusetts, was provided to sheathe her bottom. Let me know in the comments below if you want to take a guess as to who the owner of that copper mill was. If you are enjoying this video, then I just wanted to break in here briefly and ask if you'll consider clicking the like button or subscribing to this channel. And thank you so much for considering doing so. And thank you to everyone who has kind of thrown their lot in with me and who has come along on all of our historical action adventures. I am incredibly grateful for the camaraderie that I feel on this channel and that I see in the comments. I appreciate all of you so much. And as I've said before, going out and exploring all of these sites would not be half as much fun if you all did not come along with me. So thank you all so much for that. So back to Paul Revere. So Paul Revere successfully evades notice while crossing the Charles. Let's sneak around, just like he did on the night of April 18th, to see the little known historical site. This is the Paul Revere landing site, and it was just about here that Paul Revere's boat landed after crossing the Charles, and he disembarked onto the Charlestown Peninsula. Now, obviously, there's been a ton of development over the years, and it doesn't look exactly like it did in 1775. In 1775, this area that we're in, the Charlestown Navy Yard today, was the site of the Charlestown Battery, which was like a cannon emplacement guarding Boston Harbor. And that was established in the 1630s. So this whole area has actually, in some ways, been associated with defense for almost 400 years. But it would have been right around here that Paul Revere took those first few steps onto the Charlestown shoreline, wearing the boots that he had run home to get. He, no doubt thinking that he was just stepping onto the mainland. But we know that he was actually stepping into history. But wait, one last thing. The owner of the copper mill in Canton that supplied the copper to sheathe the bottom of the USS Constitution was Paul Revere himself. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you in the next video.